Typically, overthinking or overanalyzing is when your brain just won't shut down. But it can also be endlessly thinking about how bad a situation is, or you keep looking for an answer to a situation where there just is no answer. Overthinking, though, won't help you find a solution or see things with a new perspective. So, is there a difference between overthinking, which can keep us stuck, and the growth that comes with healthy introspection? Is there a way to be a productive overthinker with something we just can't let go of? Well, this podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize and materialize any dream, basically, to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there, and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Remy. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. When we consider the concept of overthinking, we sometimes see extreme situations like grief over a loss that made no sense. And so we keep thinking about it to try and make sense out of it. Or we might also consider some kind of mental health concern, like someone obsessed with worrying about the past or the future. If we want to see success in our lives, we want to understand the difference between overthinking that can keep us stuck and self reflection. Because healthy introspection or self contemplation is about learning something about ourselves or gaining a new perspective about a situation. And this keeps us on the road to our next success. If you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking and negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. This episode is for you if you wonder the difference between overthinking and introspection. How much thinking is required for healthy introspection? This episode is for you if you wonder how to change the momentum if things are going in a bad direction. And this episode is for you if you wonder how to not get stuck in your head. Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck, it's our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecisions, and even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation, it's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected into that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy. Because our choice of frequency, our choice of these positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. And when we consider the concept of overthinking, we sometimes think of someone who can't see the forest for the trees, and we're tempted to say, hey, lighten up. You're overthinking things. But we can also find ourselves in moments of stress where we can't turn the brain off because we're thinking. Maybe we're over analyzing, trying to find a solution that just doesn't seem to exist. If you've ever suffered a spiritual injury, you might even find yourself overthinking because something within that trauma just won't reconcile. If we want to see success in our lives, we want to understand the difference between the overthinking that can keep us stuck and the healthy introspection that can keep us growing. Okay, so when I looked up overthinking in the dictionary, here's what I found. I'll put it up on the screen for you. Overthinking is to think too much about something, to put too much time into thinking about or analyzing something in a way that is more harmful than helpful. And so the danger here is falling into the negative emotions of ego thinking, right? Now, when I look up healthy introspection, here's what I found. Introspection is meditation or serious thought about one's own character, actions, or motives. So, introspection is about learning something about ourselves or gaining a new perspective about our situation so that we can take the right actions. And these insights keep us on the road to our next success. If you've ever worked one on one with me, you know this is one of the first questions I ask. What have you learned? Because we want to first identify what healthy insights are there in your current situation. Now, I got an email this week from a guy who was laid off from his job after, I don't know, 20 some odd years. And so he said he isn't old enough to retire, but also at an age where companies don't exactly hire with open arms. Those were his words. He told me it's been a bumpy 8 months now. And what he's struggling the most with is, well, let me give it to you here in his own words. He said, at this point, I'm pretty much stuck with trying to figure out what Act 2.5 should be. My brain has been in a fog these past several months. Stress leads to anxiety, which leads to depression. The overwhelming feeling of doom can be unbearable. It makes it so much harder to get motivated, which then leads to more anxiety, amplifying the effect. A vicious cycle, and it's frustrating. It's just so hard for me to see the positives. I've been called a Debbie Downer. Believe me when I say I hate being this way. I don't really know how to get out of this mindset. Now, you guys know that we touch on sensitive topics here, and so I always keep your identity anonymous. But I think you can relate, right? And so the reason I wanted to share this with you is because we see how quickly overthinking can get into a downward spiral. And this is why we talk every single week about discernment and choice. If we can discern the negative thoughts, if we can spot them before they grab a hold of us, if we can stay out in front of them, then we have a lot better chance of making a choice to turn the momentum around. It takes both discernment and choice. And the mistake I see a lot of people make is in trying to force themselves to be positive or force themselves to turn their thoughts around once they've been in this spiral for a while. Once the overthinking has started, and remember the definition of overthinking was thinking too much or for too long, it's so much harder to get momentum into a new direction. So it starts with discerning the negative thoughts and then making a choice to change the momentum. But the question is how? So, one thing we can do is to simply develop a habit right now to look for the positives. But because that can be difficult for some of you, because I get emails like this every day, rather than just look for the positives, let's get to the habit of looking for what have I learned? Because in looking for what we've learned, we're activating a different, more creative part of the brain. You know, last week the episode was called Am I Growing Spiritually? And we talked about the 7 signposts of growth and how to measure our growth. And one of the things I said was that all too often we don't give ourselves credit for how far we've come. And so, one of the ways to stop ruminating, or one of the ways to stop momentum, if it's going the wrong direction, is to take stock. Where was I and where am I now? How far have I come? What have I learned? And of course, where do I want to go next? All right, so to be in a place of being proactive so that we aren't stuck in overthinking, and at the same time being positive so that we don't wash down the drain, there are 2 things to keep in mind. One is introspection. This is both self reflection and self acceptance mixed in with a little self care. For introspection, what I like the most is asking, what have I learned and how far have I come? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the screen for you right now a few questions for self awareness that you can use. And I hope that you enjoy these as much as I do. I would love for you to take the time to reflect on these as I give them to you, or set some time aside over the next day or so. And so here are a couple of questions for introspection. First one here, who am I at my core? Who am I at my core? Am I someone who loves deeply, freely, and completely? Am I someone who likes to live without regrets and be vulnerable and open? Am I someone who would never in a million years hurt someone else? Or do I have transgressions that need to be corrected? The question is, who am I at my core? Great for self reflection, right? And so here comes the next one. Have I let go of ego thinking? Have I let go of those negative thoughts and emotions that block what I want from coming to fruition? Or is this something that I continue to work on? And what is it exactly that keeps tripping me up? What haven't I been able to move beyond? And so this is your self reflection question. Have I let go of ego thinking? And here comes the next one. Is there anything or anyone that I'm taking for granted? Do I need to be sure everything is said so that nothing left is left unsaid? Do I need to spend more time with family? Do I hold my friendships in the highest regard, or do I find myself making excuses? Is there anything or anyone I'm taking for granted? And the next self reflection question is, have I mastered unconditional acceptance and I'm no longer attached to outcomes? In other words, do I accept things as they are without conditions and a willingness to see how things might unfold to my highest benefit? That may require a little optimism here. Do I have an expectation for the best possible outcomes? Am I a creator of best possible outcomes? Have I mastered unconditional acceptance and I'm no longer attached to outcomes? And here comes the next question for self reflection. Am I putting enough effort into what I want the most? Or am I putting in just enough to stay out of trouble? Or at the other end of the spectrum, am I putting in so much effort that it's now creating resistance to what I want the most? And so the question is, am I putting enough effort into what I want the most? And the next question, I'll put it up for you here. Am I using my time and energy wisely? Do I have a strong sense of priorities and what's most important to me? Am I too distracted with life? Am I at a place where I'm lost and unfocused and so my time and energy are scattered? Do I need to carve out some time to figure out what's most important to me? Am I using my time and energy wisely? Let me roll over the next one for you. One of my favorites. What am I most scared of? What keeps me up at night? What am I afraid to admit? And not just that, but how can I take small bites to overcome this fear? Or we could turn this on its head. Tell someone out loud, this is what I'm most scared of. And that can help keep a dialogue open. And I'll tell you why I've included this question. What am I most scared of? You know, I was watching an old episode of the Andy Griffith Show the other day. He was dating a woman named Miss Peggy. And Opie, little Opie, was afraid of losing his dad. And so he started to sabotage notes and phone messages to keep his dad for himself. And when he finally, at the end of the show, admitted to his dad what he'd been doing, Andy asked him why. And little Opie said, because I'm scared. I'm scared that one day you might not want me anymore. Mm. Sometimes just being completely open to what we're scared of, and even if we don't yet know exactly what that is, can open the door. Just being vulnerable enough to say, I'm scared and I don't know why, can be a tremendous start. It can keep us from overthinking, from falling into ego's trap, and can put us into mindful communication. What am I most scared of? And let me give you number 8 here on the screen. Am I holding on to something I need to let go of? Am I holding on to clutter? Am I holding on to cluttered emotions? Am I holding on to a relationship that's invalidating? Am I holding on to outdated ideas? Am I holding on to a need to be right? Am I holding on to something I need to let go of? Number 9, what matters most in my life? What matters most? Is it work that's completely and utterly fulfilling? Is it a passion project? Is it something about family? Is it a dedication to learning new ideas that might bring on a paradigm shift? Is it getting back in touch with a long lost love? Maybe someone I've ghosted, and now I realize that that was emotional abuse and I really need to make that right. What matters most in my life? And the last question for self reflection: do I matter to those around me? Or do they show me otherwise through their words or actions? And if so, how can this be corrected? Why do I matter? And so this is your last question, number 10. Do I matter to those around me? This last one, you guys, it's important because if there's anyone around that's invalidated who we are or what we stand for, that can really throw us off balance and make us overthink everything. We want people who challenge us, yes, but not in an invalidating way. In fact, the best support we can have are those people who encourage us to be insightful so that we can grow gracefully into who we're becoming. All right. So, to be in a place of being proactive so that we aren't stuck in overthinking and at the same time being positive so that we don't wash down the drain, there were two things to keep in mind. One was introspection, taking a little time for self reflection. Now, you can Google self awareness questions or self discovery questions to find some really good ones to ponder or meditate on. And you can see here on the screen that number two is mindfulness. This is all about being in the moment, being in present time. We've all heard it before that the past is already gone, the future isn't here yet. This helps to eliminate guilt or shame about the past and also helps to eliminate doubts and worries about the future. But here's what I want you to know: living in the moment, to me, being mindful means looking for the blessings. Being mindful means that we can look for the blessings. And one of my favorite mantras is life is unfolding just beautifully, because then we can look for the evidence. Look at the technology around you, or the view out your window, or your beautiful dog or cat that's with you every day. Look at the food in your pantry, or the clean water you have. Look at the pretty colors in your wardrobe, or the car that gets you from here to there. Look at how life has unfolded just beautifully. And in doing so, as you do this, you're right here in present time, in mindfulness, with positivity and focus. And as you're doing that, you'll notice that it's impossible to look at everything that may be going wrong. Keeping a focus, mindfulness on what's going right is paramount to not overthinking. So let's be mindful of finding the positives and finding the blessings. Okay. So we're talking about overthinking, which tends to be ego driven. And of course, we want to go for the insights and fresh perspectives instead so that we're always on track with our spiritual growth and not stuck in our head. All right. If you ever wonder whether you're an overthinker, here are 5 signs that you might be an overthinker. 1, you ask yourself too many what if questions. 2, you spend a lot of time thinking about the hidden meaning in things people say or even events that happen. 3, you're an overthinker if you rehash conversations and think about all the things that you wish you had or hadn't said. 4, you're an overthinker if you keep replaying the mistakes you've made. And 5, you're an overthinker if you ruminate over, should I do this or should I do that? So, what can we do if we discover that we might be an overthinker? Well, one was the introspection and to Google self discovery questions to build out who you are and what you stand for in a meaningful way. And 2 was to become mindful about the blessings that surround you and how life is unfolding just beautifully. But if you're blowing a raspberry at that last one, if you just can't get into the headspace to look for the positive, you aren't alone. Remember, we may have momentum going in a really tough direction. So I have one final tip that I've used throughout my life with great success, and it's a favorite in my workshops as well. And that is to set aside a time in the future to worry and fret. Set aside a time in the future to worry and to fret. Schedule your worry session. I remember a particularly difficult time I was going through. This was something that brought on PTSD for me. And so I was definitely overthinking, of course, as we all tend to do after trauma. We're trying to make sense of it. And I swear, I didn't think any one person could cry as much as I did. I mean, the faucets just would not turn off. And it got to a point where I just stopped wearing makeup because the mascara was going to end up all over my face and clothes anyway. I just flat out stopped wearing makeup. I stopped getting dressed. I just bought extra Kleenex because it just wouldn't stop. And it got to be ridiculous where I'd feel a wave of emotion coming on. And I'd say to myself, you've got to be kidding. Not again. I mean, it was all day, every day. Welcome to PTSD. And finally, I just started saying, I can cry later. And I'd set a timer for 15 minutes later in the day. And it's funny, it's a lot harder to worry and fret and be emotional when you're on a schedule. And here's the important thing, and this is the part that worked so well for me and for my clients as well. And so if you get nothing else out of today, I want you to get this one thing. In that 15 minutes, I'd work on self discovery questions instead. Something that would use a different part of my brain, especially something that would play to my strengths. You'd be surprised how difficult it is to go from self awareness right back to worrying and overthinking on a timer. It is nearly impossible. So, the good news is these three techniques that I've given you today: introspection, being mindful, and scheduling a specific time to worry and overthink. These are all designed to step away from the negative ego thinking and dance on over to the positive side where we can better tap into our spiritual growth. As we empower ourselves towards self expression and who we are at our core, without the negative thoughts and emotions that can drain us, we're choosing higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? Was there anything that really stood out for you? Do you find that you're an overthinker, or are you more in camp self reflection, looking for the insights that can help you to grow and expand? Well, I hope that today's episode helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. If you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck, you can tell me about it. You can send me a questions too. Questions at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. And as you know, I'll always keep your identity anonymous. Questions at unlockyourhiddenpower.com, or you may not know that you can schedule a one-on-one session with your own personal unstuckologist, that's me, by visiting instantbreakthroughsession.com. This private session is designed to help you tap into your greatest resource, that's you, and together we can make quite a team toward calling in the transformational powers of alchemy. And our time together will uncover your single biggest stuck point, the one that you might not be able to see. We'll also go over the most genius way to create clarity so you can just move forward while one obstacle after another is obliterated. And we'll create a strategy to get you moving in a really good direction, the one that's aligned with your life purpose. If this sounds like a match made in heaven, you can hop on over to instantbreakthroughsession.com right now and book the time slot that works best for you. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.